hope you're enjoying my dad's videos. Make sure to share this video with family and friends, like and subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you get notified for all my dad's new videos. My social media will be tagged down below so you can follow it. And just remember, Jesus loves you.
Hi guys, just to let you know, we've got a brand new website, drcharlieward.com, where all our videos will be loaded over the next few weeks, and you'll be able to view all of those there's no charge for watching any of those. We've moved them all onto our own platform because all the doctor ones, which are very, very important, have been taken down, so we've now got control over those, but every single video we post will be free to watch. That's very important for you to know. The other thing is we're getting an awful lot of people asking us about gold and silver. And I've always been an advocate of gold and silver. And myself, I'm not in a position to give financial advice. I'm not qualified to do so. I'm just going to tell you what I've personally done. I've personally bought gold and silver, and I've used a company that I trust, which is shown below here. They've always looked after me well. And if you order from them more than £250 worth, you get a free 1 ounce silver coin, which is very, very nice. It's a nice little gift. But this is not an endorsement. This is just what I have done personally, and it's up to you. It's your choice. As I said, I'm not qualified to give the advice on financial advice, but it's just what I have done personally. And I hope you enjoy it. And I hope you enjoy watching all of my videos. Thank you. I was just talking to Adam about the fact I'm getting lots and lots of phone calls from people in the business world who are waiting for transactions to happen, and they're just not happening. And the reason is there's a problem at the bank. And well, what's the problem? Nobody knows what the problem is. And the banks are, because they're all under NDAs, they're not allowed to talk about it. But it's fascinating what's going on at the moment behind the scenes. What I can tell you is that all the codes are put in, all the funds are in the bank, in the new quantum system. It's all there. It's all ready to go. And now it's in the hands of God. It's when he decides it starts. And it's that simple. The mechanical side is now dealt with. And this is where the forces from the outside come in, because they take over. Everything is now done and it's all set, and it's extraterrestrial, it's God, it's whatever you want to call it, but it's not human beings that have the final say.
Oh, I'm looking forward to it.
I'm mega excited.
Yeah,
I'm absolutely. I've just done a 35 page presentation on the algorithm.
Wow!
Which I finished 5 minutes ago. Yeah. Because I had the blueprint, so I've just now laid it out so that people can see it easily and understand it. And I'm going to actually launch it tomorrow in the Insiders Club.
Oh, right, yeah.
So that they can see it. I launched the blueprint inside the Insiders Club on Wednesday and went through it and read through it so that people understood it. And I've had hundreds and hundreds of emails, just super, super excited, because it's an amazing system. And it works on vibrations and frequency and sound and light rather than on zeros and ones in their old binary systems.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it unhackable.
Yeah. Oh, mate, it's an amazing future. It's amazing. Yeah. I believe anyway. I believe. I was saying this a year ago.
No, look, I came into this from a different angle. I was the only reason I knew anything about it was because of my involvement of moving precious metals around the world and currencies around the world. And I was thinking, shit, I've been busy for the last 5 years. And it was all it all came. Now I understand why it went into a certain place and then it all came out of a certain place. And it was all to do with the refining of it and having the GPS and serial numbers and identification marks all put into every single bar so that they could always be tracked. It's going to be absolutely fascinating to see how people respond when they find out what's actually going on, because currently it's a very small percentage of the world who've actually woken up. It's far less than we ever expected, and there's a lot of people that know something's not quite right, but have not had the time, the energy, or the inclination to actually investigate.
They still won't get off their own backsides and look at it, and look further.
No,
Willing to look further still.
I'm hearing so much nowadays. It's just easier to wear a mask, Charlie.
Yeah,
and I've gone, maybe for you it is. For me, it's not. I've
been
always
a
been
wedge, though, isn't it? It starts there, and then it's easier to do this, and then it's easier to do that, and then you turn around and you think, blimey, how did we get here?
Oh, I know. I've had some grief off some trolls on Facebook for the things I share. One of them being my uncle. He's always giving me grief, and he's calling us all snowflakes. And I've not replied. So I don't reply to negativity. I might send one message once and just, I'm never going to be nasty. I'm never going to relate. I'm never going to resort to calling people names like they do. It's like being in a school ground. I don't believe in that. It's just not on. It's strange how people have changed over this last year, But calling us all snowflakes, and and what I will explain to him, I do speak to him and say, you're more likely. A snowflake to me is the people that are just doing it to toll blindly, and not. It takes a lot. It takes a strong person to stand up against the narrative, against the system, against what everybody else is doing. They're not the snowflakes, in my view. I don't know what you think, Charlie. Or
what? You've just nailed it there, because you and I both know that if a man is telling his wife, questioning her as to whether she's having an affair, 9 times out of 10, he's the one having the affair. And you've got a snowflake there that's pointing at you, going, "You're a snowflake," because he can see it in himself and he doesn't want to admit it. So he points at somebody else to deflect the truth.
No, it's all the time. I'm going to have to just put him right at some point, and then. But people's egos get in the way, Charlie, don't they? It's not, and I've always said, look, it's not about me being right and you being wrong. I'm not trying to prove. I'd rather be wrong. The stuff I've spoken about in the past. I'd rather there not be bad people in the world doing what they're doing. Yeah,
for a lot of this stuff, we kind of hope we are wrong. We hope it isn't going to get as bad as we think sometimes. But
I'm proud of you two guys. I'm proud of you two guys, because most of my followers are women, and a lot of women have stood up and woken up a lot quicker than the men. You two guys have got a backbone, which is, I tell you what, it's very attractive to women to find a man that's actually got a backbone. This is why there's so many single women out there, because the men have turned into complete and utter jelly babies. I mean, it's pathetic, some of them. It's I had 2 or 3 say to me, well, I do have a reputation that I have to think about.
Balls to that.
I went, really?
Yeah. What's more important? Anyway, I'll be getting off of one ranting in a minute. I'm like, oh no.
The most important thing that we all have in common is the fact that with the new currency that we're going into, it's going to be backed by precious metals, backed by something, rather than backed by fresh air. So we're moving into a world with a foundation rather than a fanciful world that we've lived in for the last 100 years or whatever. In fact, 60 years, wasn't it? 50 or 60 years since Nixon swiped his pen for 2 weeks and took us off.
Got some interesting stuff to show you about that.
We're going to touch on that anyway.
Well, let's get on and look at that, because this is very interesting times to understand why we're where we're at, where we're going.
If you understand that, it helps, doesn't it? It helps. It just helps with everything. It helps fit all the pieces in the jigsaw, doesn't it?
Of course it does.
Understand how we got to this stage.
Yeah, exactly.
Again, as we said, we just want to shine light on things, and we encourage everyone to do their own research. I'm sure you'll find what we found. As always, we say, and I'm sure everyone knows this, but we keep saying it, and we're not financial advisors, we're not accountants. We don't want to give people advice. We just want to show you what we've done, show you what we know, and empower you to kind of see it for yourselves. That's it. So let me share my screen. We're going to talk about today a bit of the history of how gold and banks are kind of intertwined. And then we're going to whiz through history, talk about Nixon and how everything started with that. And then see what's actually happening right now, and the opportunity that people have right now, which is really, really exciting. Talking about gold and how it's going to be revalued, and we can tell you chapter and verse exactly how it's going to happen. So let me just share my screen with you. We've called this exposing the new gold rush, because there is a rush that's happening. Banks and central banks are already doing it, and it's our turn to benefit as well. So, James, do you want to just tell us a little bit about the history of how everything kind of kicked off?
Yeah. I obviously, if I'm missing anything out, Adam, or if you feel you need to add anything, as usual, please butt in, and yourself, Charlie, because you guys have got so much valuable information, and this is about getting it right for people, isn't it? It's more important than my ego. So please butt in if I miss anything out or whatever. But I've got a few notes here just in case. It's just Adam and myself spend so much time, don't we, Adam, just keeping things so simple so people understand this. Because we've got all this information, but we have to dwindle it down and dwindle it down and dwindle it down, and try and make it simple. Because it's more important that people get the message, that understand it. Yes. It's more important. In the past, we used to just throw lots of information at people, as in oodles of information, and wonder why they looked at us blankly. Too much information, too much. So hopefully, we've kept it simple again. We've kept it straightforward and simple again. But keep me on track, Adam. You know, like how
just to say there, look, you know, when it's simple, you can do something with it. You can actually action it, and it has an application. When it's complicated, it just no one knows what to do. So
I'm just going to make one point as well, that you made a reference to the banking system. The new gold that is going out won't be going to the old central banks. It'll be going to the new gold bullion banks. So each country will have a new gold bullion bank, so that people know. So, because if you put gold into the old banks, it would disappear in seconds because they're thieving little bastards.
Yeah. It's a big point, that, mate. Very big point. I'll get on with it. I can't wait to. We go through this and then we'll get. It'll all hopefully fit together for people. So, like I said, we're keeping this really, really simple. This is just a little story that I've sort of put together. Hopefully, it does make sense. So, again, keeping it simple. Back in the times, you know, thousands of years ago, people used to exchange. They used for money. They used to use. If you look back at this yourselves, guys and girls, research it. They used to use wood, feathers, shells, stones. They used to use all sorts of things as a medium of exchange for goods and services. Well, they used to use cattle, didn't they, and things like that. It was very, very hard to exchange them. You know, they used to use all sorts of things. But eventually, they found gold and silver. All right, other metals. Well, we're talking about gold mainly today, but gold and silver, and they became very attracted to gold and silver. Very attracted to it. It's very. And ever since then, basically, the human race have had this fascination with shiny things, gold, i.e., gold. You know, but back then they were using it as a medium of exchange, but there was no weight to it. There was no purity. They're all different sizes, so it's very hard still to exchange, right? So, back then, eventually though, they moved on, they evolved, and a goldsmith, or whatever they would call them back in that day, started to smelt. Is that the right word? Smelt the coins, right? So make them into coins that had the right markings, had all the same size, all the same weight, the same purity.
Like standardized,
Standardized, that's the right word, isn't it? Which is what it is now, and certified, the right markings and what have you. You know, so people could basically exchange. So one coin was the same as that coin. You know, both worth the same. You know, same purity, etc. So hopefully I've explained that okay. So that's how it came to that point. But when people started doing this, obviously they had to have somewhere to keep it. To keep their wealth, to keep their savings, to keep their gold and silver, because people were very, very attracted to it, and they still are now. When they see it, like Adam and myself, when we went in that vault in Germany, went in the vault, we saw the gold brought out. You know, we're like, ooh, very, very attractive, isn't it, Adam? Yeah, the shine. But yeah, so you can see why people are attracted to it. But that's the first part of the story, okay? So again, I'm keeping it so simple. So people had to keep it somewhere safe. So that's where vaults came from. That's where banks came from eventually. So they kept their gold in a vault. But the person who owned the vault, the person that stored his own gold in the vault initially, all right, this person, this goldsmith or whatever you want to call him, he thought, oh, okay, he thought, oh, realization number one, all right, he was, oh, I could make some money doing this. I can make some money storing other people's metals because other people wanted to keep their savings, their wealth somewhere safe. So this was like the beginning, really, wasn't it? This is the beginning of the banking system, really. He was, oh, I can make some money doing that. But obviously, with people's gold in the bank, he had to give them something to say they had to have something to well, like a receipt for that gold, prove that it was in there. And that's where this is the beginning of this paper money, right? The beginning of that. So, and it's much easier to exchange on the markets and exchange for goods and services using paper currency, all right, rather than precious metals, all right?
So just a point here, James. Yeah. When people were storing their excess gold in the vaults, they would then go to the vaults, get their receipt and say, right, I'll take some more gold out. I'll then go to the marketplace. I'll buy some food and whatever my family needs. And then for their savings, it then goes back into the vault. Then what they realized is these paper receipts were as good as the gold they were backed by.
Yeah.
So rather than everyone having these paper receipts, going to the vault, getting their gold out, then exchanging it, they thought, well, why don't we just exchange these receipts because they are as good as gold themselves.
Yeah.
It was the first gold-backed currency, really.
People had faith in this event. People grew confidence in this, didn't they?
Yes, because it was backed by something.
Yeah, because it was backed by something solid, shiny, gold. So that was like the first stage, the first, I call it the 5 realization points, which I'm going through now. And the first one was, great points there, Adam, by the way. Yeah, and the first one was, I can make money by keeping your money in the, I can make money by keeping other people's gold in my vault, in my bank. So then we came to realization 2. It was, I can make more money here, lending my gold out. Lending his receipts out. Right? Big difference, but lending his receipts out. So it's like, I think it's just a lot of this is greed. I mean, it's all right making money, but I think this is sort of the beginnings of, what else can I do? What else can I do? So realization 2 was making money by lending out his money and charging interest, right? And charging interest. So realization 3 was lending other people's money out. All right. So like I said, we started out, he's making money by renting a space in his vault. Realization 2, he's lending his own money out and making money. All right. Charging interest to people for loans, charging interest. Realization 3 is lending out their money, their gold that's in the vault. All right. And charging interest.
And this is where it's a slippery slope.
Yes, and this is starting to slip now, isn't it?
Yes, it starts to slip. Charging storage is a service, fine, no problem. People are getting something for that. Loaning your own gold, fair enough, it's yours. You can do what you want with it. But then starting to loan out other people's is the thin end of the wedge, as we've said.
But I mean, there's been many. If you look back, there's been many bank runs. You can Google it or whatever. You can look back at history and you can see where there's been bank runs. People run to the bank. So in this story, to try and explain this, there was eventually a bank run. And I'll tell you why. It's because people get jealous. That's one thing. They get jealous, or they're starting to get suspicious and think, hold on, this guy he's loaded. He's prancing about in his flashy cars and his flashy clothes, and he's flaunting it. But people are starting to get suspicious and rumours are flying.
Because he was loaning out more gold than they knew he had.
Yeah.
So they knew he had a certain amount and he was loaning out more than he had. So they were like, well, hang on a minute, where is this extra gold? And they put They put one and one together, two and two together, whatever the phrase is,
Yeah.
and worked out, hang on a minute, he's loaning out our gold.
Yeah. So he's getting a bit naughty, but you know, as long as the economy's all good, loans are getting paid back, blah blah blah. In this story, there was a bank run. All right, there's been many bank runs. There was a bank run on the bank, but it was actually all their gold was there. You know, it was all there. It was good to go still because the loans had been paid back. You know, so it was all still there. But the yeah. Flipping out. This is where this is sort of where the banking system moved on again, really, because that's when the people suddenly realised themselves. All right, that's when realisation 4 really kicked in, when they realised that, hold on, he's making all this money. What about us? What about us? Why can't we get something? So that's where it came. That's where the interest came from. So we get interest for having our money now in the bank. Right, we get a tiny bit of interest. They make shed loads. They make more zeros than what you could ever flip in. You can't have them fit on a page, but they'll give us a little bit of interest for having it in there. So that was the 4th realization. The 4th realization was really the people realizing, hold on, he's making all this money. Great, our gold's in there, our money's in there, but we're not getting anything for it. We should get a piece of the pie. So that's when we started getting a little piece of the pie. Right. So yeah, so as long as them loans are paid, all right. Realization 5. Well, basically, it's because at that time too, I'm trying to keep it simple again. People wanted credit. The expansion in Europe, they were expanding all over the place, weren't they? Trading all over the world at this stage, all right. I'm not going to go into dates and things, but they needed credit. So they were happy to be lending out money. They wanted to lend out money, you know, money. But realization 5 was, this is where it really slipped down the slope. This is where it went off the bloody cliff. Sorry to swear. Went off the cliff. They started to lend out money which wasn't even in the bank.
Yeah.
This is when funny money kicked in. So just to reiterate then, realization 1, again, just to try and make it really, really clear. Realization 1, again, is the banker, because that's where he started being a banker, really, was when he thought, oh, I can make money by storing other people's metals. Realization 2, he can make money by lending out his own money and charging interest. Realization 3, he can lend out other people's money. That's when it started going down the slope. Right, realization 4 was people, okay, you're doing that, our money's still in there, so we're good to go, but we want a piece of the pie. Realization 5 is, it's gone off a cliff, in my view. It's just in my view, this is, because they're lending out funny money, they're lending out fresh air. The money is not actually there. So but again, there's still people I speak to now, Charlie, that have no idea the way it works. I mean, the way I explain it is, banks now lend out fresh air. They literally lend out fresh air. They'll charge interest on that fresh air. And if you don't pay that fresh air back, plus interest, they'll take the real assets off you, i.e. your property, your houses, your cars, anything that's actually worth anything. They'll take it off from you.
One very interesting point on that. When a bank lends you money for a mortgage, and we've had a few of these people recently, had a mortgage for 5 or 10 years, pardon me, 5 or 10 years. And the bank have been calling in the debt because of the mortgage payments being behind because of what we've been through for the last year. And people have been advised by the common law court to go back to the bank or building society and just say to them, before we start this conversation, I would like the original agreement, please. And of course, there's not one bank in the world that's got the original agreement because it's been sold off, and it's miles down the line.
Yeah.
And you can actually stop them right in their tracks right there. The moment you say, I'm not prepared to continue the conversation until I can have a look at the original signed agreement, not a copy of the original signed, and you put them into checkmate.
Yeah. And all you have to do also, Charlie, is look at land registry.
Yeah.
Who's on there as the first charge? It's the original bank, but they haven't got the debt anymore. They've sold it on. Yeah. And sold it on. And in some cases I've seen, they sold it on 7 or 8 flipping times.
Correct.
Might be some pig farm in Nebraska. Yeah. Or one brick in your debt in your mortgage, or your house even, or whatever. You know, it's really, this is something else we've been involved with in the past. I won't go into now, but it's just something else we're involved with, trying to help people deal with that side of it. But it's when you really understand what really, and the good people will always say, yeah, but I've been lent that money, I should pay it back. And say, guys, you haven't been lent anything. Yes, I agree with you.
Yeah.
But when you really understand how it works, you've been lent nothing.
Fresh
Nothing.
air.
And it is literally fresh air. So we will keep hammering that message across. We'll still keep hammering it until people get it, because they need to understand it. You know, it's corrupt to the to the hill. I don't even know how to explain it anymore.
They've lent you fresh air, and they want double the money back with tax, interest, everything.
Yeah. Oh,
and you're having to work to give it back, and they gave it to you for nothing.
Yeah. And I think that the sooner people wake up to this and do something about it, and there is something you can do about it, you know. But yeah, when this was realized, when the banks inevitably had another run on the banks had another run on them, you know, people ran to the banks going, hold on a minute, you know, because they were lending out funny money. Obviously people lost confidence in the banks then, because they realized what they were up to, you know. But guess what they did? They legalized it. Regulated it rather than stop it in its tracks. But it was due to the European expansions at the time and what they were getting up to. They wanted credit. They wanted it to keep going. So they didn't stop it from happening. They legalized it and regulated it instead. And that's where it all sort of came from. So hopefully I've explained that simple enough so people get it. But it will fit in when Adam speaks further in a minute. But it'll fit in. But we just thought it'd be good to explain the beginnings of it. I mean, I've really simplified it, really simplified it. But that's you can
see how it translates to banking today. You know, where it all started, charging for storage, loaning out your money, loaning out other people's money, giving you a share, and then just lending money that isn't there. You know, it's a very simple thing to follow and to see, yes, that's what's happening today. And that's where it all started.
I mean, in some cases, it's been, well, they said it's like 1 in 9 or 1 in 10, didn't they? You could lend 10 times more than what you had in there.
Yeah.
But I've seen cases from my research and the people I've worked with, 30 times. This is why we've been in the problems that we've been in, or we are in.
I can assure you that banks have been doing it 300 to 400 times.
I bet it is. Yeah, it would not surprise me. I mean, some of the horror stories I've heard, you can see why people don't. You can see why people don't believe this initially. Things like this that we speak about, because it is so out there. Yeah. It's just like, whoa, no way. But the more you look at it, if you do some critical thinking and do your own research, and you follow that, they always say, go down the rabbit hole, Charlie, don't they? You go down the rabbit hole, you can't go back to being ignorant to it all. You can't go backwards. What I'm trying to explain is you can't go backwards. Once you've had your eyes opened, you can't just go back to it.
You can't unsee it.
Yeah, you can't unsee it. Yeah, that's what I was getting at. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, exactly. Well, look, from there, the relationship with banks and gold and countries and gold, they've gone on gold, and then they've gone off gold, and then they've gone on gold, and then they've gone off gold. And what we want to show you now is just a snapshot of some key points, some key dates, some key events that have happened when this on and off gold has happened. And the common theme with all of this is that when governments and countries and central banks want to print more money quickly, and they want to fund a war or fund something else, then they go off gold, because they can't mine enough gold and they can't get it quick enough for the amount that they want.
You can't print gold, can you?
No.
Exactly. But then when things go crazy and out of control, which they always do, and we'll see that throughout history, then they need something stable to go back to. What do they go back to? Back to gold every single time. So let me show you here, just to take a snapshot of some things that have happened. On gold. So we've got this thing at the top, on gold. In 1377, England went to a monetary system based on gold and silver. So they're on gold. And then in 1871 to 1900, it took a while for a lot of countries to come on board with this, but the official international gold standard was established.
Can I just come in there quickly, because this is quite an important point in wording. We are not going to the gold standard with the new financial system.
We're going to a gold-backed or precious metal-backed currency. The gold standard can always be manipulated in different countries. Gold backing of the currency worldwide cannot.
Yeah.
This is very important point.
Yeah, you'll see all of this and how it kind of it all points to the same thing, Charlie, as you'll see it at the end. So they were on gold. They were like, "Yep, this is a nice stable thing to do," and it worked. It worked well. Then the First World War came, and they needed to fund the war. Wars are very expensive. So they went off gold. They said, "Yep, don't need the gold standard anymore. We need more money. We need more paper money." So they ditched it. And look at these dates, 1914 to 1919. And then not long after, in 1925, they said, "Boy, this has got to be out of control. We need to go back to the gold standard or some form of the gold standard." Important to notice throughout all of this is it might be called different things and different agreements, legislation, it's called different things, but it essentially does the same thing. You go off gold because you want to print loads of money, or you go back to gold as some kind of stabilizer. And this is what happened. So they went back on gold. Not too long after, the Great Depression, Wall Street crash. Governments and countries thought, this is not good. We need to kind of step in. We can't have a gold backed system, so they abandoned it. They said, this is not what we need right now. We need to print more money. We need to step in and do all of this stuff. Back on gold. You see a bit of a pattern here coming. Back on gold. So 1934, the US government revalued gold. This is really, really important, and we're going to talk about this at the end, how you can actually benefit from the revaluing that is set to happen. And we'll tell you how that's going to happen. The government revalued the gold, the US government. So not only were they were on gold, but they were saying, we need to kind of shift things a little bit. We need to manipulate the system a little bit more. And then we had the Bretton Woods Agreement. And this is where it was 44 countries, I think it was, actually said, okay, let's come to some agreement. The US dollar is going to be pinned to gold, and every other currency around the world is going to be pinned to the US dollar. So every currency essentially through the US dollar was pinned to gold. All good. Back on gold. Not long after, Mr. Nixon, as we said, decided, do you know what? We're going off gold again. I don't know whether this gold is like, going off in the fridge and it's past its sell-by date or something. But they were off gold. They thought, do you know what? No, we don't want to do that anymore. And it all comes back down to that point of greed that James was talking about with the goldsmith. It all stems from that. There's so many lessons to be learned from how that developed. And governments and countries wanted more than the gold would allow them. The gold stabilized everything, but they wanted more. So they went off it. And since then, we have been off any type of gold standard, to the same degree anyway. So this was 1971. What happened in 1974 is something called the Basel Committee on Banking Supervision. Now, don't worry about the terminology, because sometimes it can sound confusing. I think for a reason. That's why, lawyers and solicitors keep it confusing, so that you don't understand it. But this was basically set up as it's kind of the central bank's bank. So the bank that looks after the central banks and supervises everything and puts in legislation and puts things, different agreements in, whether we call it the Bretton Woods Agreement or we call it something different, they're essentially the same thing. So in 1988, something called Basel I came in. We'll be talking about Basel I, II, and III. Basel 1 was an idea of introducing different tiers of assets on a bank's balance sheet. Again, don't get too bogged down in the details. It's the principles that matter. And they introduced two different tiers of capital. Tier 1 being a riskless asset. So something that the bank could say, we have paper money, we have dollars, pounds, euros, and if we've got £10 or $10, then we have that. We physically have it, no problem. Tier 2 assets were things like loans, where it was a promise of capital. So they didn't physically have the money yet, but they were being promised it. So Tier 2 was seen as like a more risky asset to the bank. You might think, what's this got to do with gold? Where are you going with this? Stay with us. You'll see how it all comes in, okay? So this is what they did. They came up with Tier 1 and Tier 2. Fine, no big deal. Then they brought in 2004, Basel 2. This is just an update, a revision of Basel 1. And what this banking regulation said is, as well as a lot of other things, they introduced Tier 3 capital. Tier 3 being the riskiest. So Tier 1, zero risk. Tier 2, a bit more risky. Tier 3, the riskiest. And they stuck gold in Tier 3, being the riskiest, which is madness to us all. But what they were doing while they were putting gold into Tier 3, they were buying a lot of gold. And it's this whole thing of do as I say, not as I do. Yeah. So they're saying gold's risky. You know, you don't need it, but they're buying it up. And as a Tier 3 asset, the central banks could only use 50% of the value of the gold they were holding. So they were buying it, but it was only worth 50% maximum because it was seen as risky. Okay. Then here's what's happened since then, and this is kind of current day stuff. After the financial crisis in 2008, 2010 they said, look, we need a revision. So they brought in Basel 3, just another name for another regulation, another update and revision. And this is really, really important because what Basel 3 says, again, among other things, is that gold will be moved to a Tier 1 asset, okay? A riskless asset. And the central banks can use 100% of its value. So all of this gold that they've been buying up for years, that they've only been ever been able to use 50% of the value, the gold is going to be a Tier 1 asset and it will be worth double what it was ever worth before. Riskless. So when you talk about a precious metal backed currency, it all points to the same thing, that gold is going to be as good as paper money. Now, we all know paper money is just a promise and there's nothing backing it, stuff like that. But it's not a loan. It's not a promise. It's not something that's to be expected. It's physically there and you've got it. And gold is to be moved to Tier 1. Now, because what happened last year, Basel 3 was delayed. But the central banks knew that this was happening. So if you know that you can buy something today that's only worth 50%, but in a couple of years' time, it will be worth double. You can use it for double what it's worth now. We'd all be buying it like crazy, right? And this is what's been happening. So in 2018, central banks purchased more gold than the previous 60 years combined. Do your own research, look for this yourself, you will see the numbers. In 2019, gold purchases were up 90% from the year before. And then in 2020, COVID hit and they delayed Basel 3, the implementation of it. What does that mean for us? Well, there's some different information out there when it's actually going to be implemented. Some people are saying 2022, 2023. It's definitely happening. And this is when gold will be revalued for the central banks to 100% of its value, a Tier 1 asset. Look that up, Google it, you'll see the same. And this is when we're on some kind of gold currency. So we're kind of back on gold now. A really important distinction here is that paper gold, ETFs, a promise of gold, will not be tier 1 assets. So any banks that are holding a gold promise will not have those same benefits as holding physical gold. So there is going to be a rush, the new gold rush, towards physical gold. This is what we think is going to happen. And this is what the actions of the central banks is supporting and showing us, that people are going to be wanting to buy physical gold, and central banks, the biggest buyers of gold, are going to be wanting it, and they have been. Now, I know there's a lot of talk about prices being suppressed and things like that, and you can see it happening. Because if people, countries, banks, central banks are buying more gold than ever before, but the price is going down, something's not right. If in the UK or in any country, more people are wanting to buy houses than there is available, the house price, the housing market goes up. Yeah, house prices get more and more expensive. If there's more demand, but the house prices go down, something's holding them down. This is what we see.
This is showing people how corrupt the old system was. The banks are desperate to buy gold, and somebody is artificially suppressing the price so they can buy it.
Yeah.
You can see here that the price of gold has dropped. But the buying up of gold has increased massively. And we've actually, we've got some good relationships with people in the gold world, and they've spoke to the refineries where they purchase the metals from. These are the same refineries that the central banks buy from. They're the biggest customers. And these refineries never outright say, yes, the central banks are buying, because they don't disclose. But what they say is every time the price has dipped, we have been inundated with orders from our largest clients. Okay, not really difficult to work out who that is. So the price is going down, and they are getting things cheaper and cheaper, knowing that it's going to be revalued, knowing that they're going to get from 50% the value to 100% of the value, a tier 1 asset, a riskless asset for the banks. Now, they know something that not everyone else knows, not the us, the mere mortals on the planet, that we don't know. We're here to kind of show you what they're doing, and that you can do the same.
That's all we have to do, isn't it? Do the same.
Do the same.
What they're doing.
They say do as we say, not as we do. We say do as they're doing, because they know something about the system. They're controlling the system. We just think because of all of this, if anything's positive has come out of COVID, then Basel III has been delayed. It's given us time to research and to know about this stuff and to benefit. This is our time to benefit. So of all the other things that gold actually does, it's in your control and it protects you from inflation and things like that. This is going to be a really good opportunity for people to actually benefit from the increase in price.
Yep.
The time is now. Put it very simply, the time is now for people to benefit from a rush on gold that is going to happen. It's happening now, and the price is going down. So this is the time to get involved.
The only wrong time to do it is tomorrow, in our view, Adam, isn't it? The only wrong time to get started is tomorrow. You don't have to be buying silly amounts. Just get started doing it monthly or on a regular basis. If you want to do it that way, just bit by bit, just have some flipping gold.
The time is now, because it's 11:11 here in Spain.
Yeah, that's it.
The Great Awakening.
This stuff is going to happen. It was meant to happen. It's been delayed, so it's not a case of there's any obscurity of whether it will or not. It will. It's just a case of the exact date, and that's what's going to happen. So, look, this is what we do for ourselves. I know, Charlie, you're a big advocate of gold and silver. This is what we do, and we've been doing it for a good while now. This is how we've learned to protect and secure what we've got, and to let it grow and actually be worth something in the future.
I don't know.
Say again, sorry.
And have full control over what we've got.
Have full control. So look, if we can help you do this, great. We'd love to help you on this journey. It can be a bit of a minefield when you get started, but just get in contact with us. Go to goldbusters.co.uk, fill in your details. We'll give you a call. We call everybody back. So you will hear from us. You will have a chat, a bit of an old-fashioned way of doing to know what you're about, where your situation is, what you'd like to do, and then we'll see how we can help you.
We've had some great feedback, haven't we, Adam? I think is important to share.
Yes. Yeah, we had this is just one couple that actually messaged us from Canada and just said, thanks so much for everything you've done. We can now sleep at night knowing that we're not going to lose all of our pension. Basically, they had all their pension, and it was cut in half a couple of different times, and they've secured it in gold. They're in control of it, and yeah, happy days. So if we can do that for you, we'd love to help. If this has been interesting or useful to you, then go away, do research, and yeah, act now is what we would say.
There's also been many people you've spoken to, Adam, haven't you, that have been telling you stories of how they've had their money controlled and the banks haven't done what they wanted to do. They haven't been giving them their money back, have they?
Yes. Yeah, they've been trying to buy gold to do the right thing, and because they knew the money wasn't in their control. And then what the banks have done is said, we're not allowing you to buy gold. And the banks aren't helping themselves because these people knew the money wasn't in their control, and the banks confirmed it. As soon as they wanted to do something with it and to take back control, the bank said, we're not allowing you to do that.
It's happening over and over and over again now, Adam, isn't it? It's happening more than it's ever happened, really.
Yeah, we're here, and this is not just some stuff we've read. We're actually speaking to these people and going through it with them, just trying to help them on that journey. And look, put it this way: over the last 5.5 years that we've been on this journey and buying metals for ourselves and our families, banks have refused and they've put roadblocks in the way, but so far, touch wood, we've been able to push everything through for every person that's wanted to kind of do that. So there is a way. You just have to kind of stay strong with it, push through, and we'll work with you to make that happen.
You must know some stories, Charlie. You must have come across some stories.
I've come across so many stories where I've got wealthy people who've had gold in the bank, and the bank have moved it from their custody sheet onto their balance sheet and leveraged it and sold it. And when they've gone to collect the gold, it's not there. And the bank don't have the money to go and get it back. And this is how corrupt these banks are. I've always said, if you're going to buy gold or silver, either keep it somewhere safe at your house, or if you've got a lot of it, get a private box in somewhere like Loomis. There's many different facilities around the world that you can go and put it in. It's also a really good feel factor that when you can go to get your gold or silver at any time, day or night, and you can be in any country in the world and you can take it to a gold or silver dealer, a pawnbroker, or what have you. The easiest are the pawnbrokers, because they'll buy it off you. They'll snap your arm off for it, because that's what they do. And most of them nowadays will give you the spot price, the actual price of what's published, because the demand for it is so great. But we are being lied to an awful lot by the banks and by the artificial suppression, because they're buying up loads of it right now and the price is dropping. I always say, and you've heard me say it before, if it looks like shit and smells like shit, it's probably shit.
There we go.
These sort of things, when the price is dropping like this, and they're buying, it tells you something is not quite right. So
it doesn't add up. It doesn't add up.
I've had this conversation in the past, Charlie, with financial advisors. I've had this conversation, and I think every single financial advisor I've spoken to have all gone, "Oh no," because they're run by the system. They're trained by the system. They're in the system. And there's like, "Oh no, it's not seen as being money. It's not seen it." And that guy, well, why would the banks be doing this, and this? Why would these countries be buying? Well, why would they be doing it then? There's a reason why they're doing it. They set up the system. They control the system. Why would they be doing it?
Yeah,
and it always stops them. It always stops them in the tracks. They can never answer it.
Yeah.
And that's all people really need to know. It's common sense. Just do what they do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thank you very much. Another informative morning, learning about what we should be looking at and how we can protect our own selves. But thank you once again.
No problem. Thanks for having us, Charlie. Keep doing what you're doing.
Healthy.
Cheers, guys.
Speak soon. Bye.
Mate.